It's Toxic Radio, and 'tis the season for frightening masks, demonic voices, and men in heavy face makeup.
I'll swallow your soul!
And you might even see some people trick-or-treating, too.
Swallow this.
At Toxic Radio, we do Halloween just a little bit harder. Don't play it safe. Play it toxic.
Hi, it's Steve Morrison from the President Steve Show, and you're listening to Toxic Radio. Get infected like you would with a cheap hooker.
Hey, this is Kel Mitchell, and you're listening to Toxic Radio. Uh-oh, it's getting toxic.
Hey, buddy. Brah. Hey, man, that's a sweet heavy metal happy hour t-shirt. Where'd you pick that up?
Thanks, dude. I got it at the Toxic Radio shop.
Toxic Radio has a shop?
Yeah, dude. It's in the app or online at toxicradio.net.
That is sweet.
Yeah, and I also got a rockin' Toxic Radio hoodie and a Red Band Underground shirt. Dude, I'm gonna look so rockin' at the party tomorrow.
Well, I think you look pretty now.
Oh, wait, what?
The Toxic Radio shop is a place to get all your Toxic Radio gear. Shirts, hoodies, stickers. Find it at toxicradio.net or on the app. Don't buy it safe. Buy it toxic. Hey, where you going, man? Well, here we are, starting to work our way into this new normal.
Oh, what fresh hell is this?
Actually, it's not so bad. Coming out of our houses, social distancing, wearing masks. Actually, I kind of like that part. I feel like a sexy bandit. Except, sometimes I forget my pants.
What the hell?
The point is, we're all going to get through this. Take care of each other. Be considerate. Wash your hands. And remember, Toxic Radio is here for you. We'll rock you with the music and entertain you with the shows. We'll make it just a little easier to adjust to this weird new world.
I love you guys.
We're not going anywhere, and we appreciate you being along for the ride.
Enjoy your pants.
Oh yeah, you betcha. Remember, play life safe. Play your radio toxic.
Welcome to Paradelphia Radio. Once again, we are back here in the Toxic Radio Studios.
Oh, it's beautiful. Oh, man. It's like my home away from home that I haven't been home in years.
We are finally, I feel like The Rock. Finally.
Yes.
Finally.
Rick.
We're back.
Been back
in the
with
Toxic
his crazy crew.
Studios. This is quite the little setup Toxic Mike has done with the place since we've been gone.
Oh, yeah. Digging the soundproof black and green and everything. So
yeah, man,
looking good.
He's upgraded the tech here, and now we're kicking some ass here.
Yeah.
He's got these light rings. I was telling him before the show. I feel like I'm gonna have a tan by the end of the night.
Right, and I didn't have a chance to comment because literally I'm not used to coming in rushing up 295 again to hurry up and get here. Brought back memories, but I'm loving it.
All right, so tonight we have a lot to go over. The main topic we're going to talk about tonight is going to be the ghosts of the tsunami.
Yes.
And this is
very interesting.
This is a topic that Doug brought up a couple days ago. It's in reference to one of the stories that is in the new Unsolved Mystery Show on Netflix. But it's so much more than that.
Oh, yeah.
I found a book actually called The Ghost of the Tsunami, written by a guy named Richard Lloyd Parry.
Yeah, in fact, after I watched the Unsolved Mysteries,
yeah.
I'm waiting in it in the mail, but I bought the book after I saw it.
The book is, and it's interesting because the title leads you to believe it's going to be about the supernatural part of the story.
Right.
It's really not.
No.
It's mostly about the human part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing of it is, when you read the book, you kind of understand that you have to know the human part of the story in order to understand the supernatural part. And we're gonna get through that in a few minutes. We'll start out with, talking a little bit about the book, about some of the stories he talks about in the book, so you get a preview on on your reading.
That's all right. I've already looked when doing research for the show, and plus when I saw it, I mean, it just intrigued me. So I've looked a lot into it.
And it's interesting because the fact that it happened in Japan and with the cultural norms that are in place in Japan really play a part in the whole story. From what happened during the disaster to the supernatural end of it.
And their views already, I mean, compared to our views, I mean, their views on spirituality and which again we'll get into, but their views are a lot more open-minded than where we're in a society here in America of 50-50, skeptical and not. They just have a whole different outlook on it, and it makes it even more intriguing. So before we get into all that, a couple things I want to mention first. Tonight we put out last week because we thought this was going to happen tonight. We put out last week that our buddy Mario Cerrito, filmmaker extraordinaire, is releasing his latest picture called Human Hibachi, and he was going to come on tonight. He had a scheduling conflict. So I mentioned this on social media a couple days ago. We are going to be getting him on air one way or another. Either we're going to get him on one of the shows coming up, or I'll do a separate interview with him, and we'll post that separately. I'm not quite sure how that's going to go yet. But Human Hibachi is going to be out. Be ready.
Is going to be out starting tomorrow. Now, the thing with this movie is that this movie has literally been banned from Amazon Prime.
That is intense.
So, so he was Mario was trying to get this, like normally with his other movies, with Deadly Gamble and The Listing, he got those distributed through Vudu and Amazon Prime.
Like pretty much all the. I mean, I think even Xfinity or Comcast even released them too.
It's on there.
So
it's on there too.
Yeah, he's done great success with the rest of them.
So he thought that was going to happen with this movie, even though from the get go, this is a lot more intense. To put it one way.
You gotta have the stomach,
Right, but this, apparently this didn't work out the way he thought it was going to happen, and he was literally banned by Amazon Prime. So the way he's going to go about doing this, for anybody watching, there's a little preview here on the stream, some clips of the movie. And there's me in the background. Look at that.
Hey, you're famous. Let me get your autograph.
Me and my niece Jade. We actually have IMDb credits on this movie.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know if you check it out because IMDb, I actually, and you do too. We have credits from Ghost Nation.
Ghost Nation, yeah.
And I even, in fact, it opens it up because where I saw that. I have a screenshot of me from Ghost Nation, but when I was on that Trisha Goddard show years ago, like all of these things I've been involved in now, so it's neat that it's like that means you're in the spotlight, I guess.
The sex tape from 2015.
Yeah, right, exactly. You were there. You filmed it. You were the cue card holder.
That's right. That's right. So anyway, Mario, tomorrow he's going to release this on his own website for the he put a website aside, or what do you call that? I guess bought one, whatever you want to call it.
Something like, I mean, usually
secured one for the movie.
Right. He got a domain.
There you
Bought
go.
a domain.
There you
See,
go.
Mike comes through with the actual terminology.
I'll tell you what, Mike, the radio guy, TV guy, he's even the lube guy on that sex tape video. So.
Wait, what?
You don't remember.
Yeah, he blocked it out.
Sorry, Mom.
We all did.
I'm so proud of you, the lube guy.
So humanhibachi.com is the website, and you guys can go on to his website and actually purchase the movie to watch and stream online starting tomorrow. I think he's still hoping to get some kind of distribution set up for this through traditional means.
Right.
But I think what's going to have to happen is he's going to have to get a lot of downloads and kind of take that to these outlets and say, look, people want to see this movie. You're going to have to chill.
Well, I mean, and not only that, I mean, when we were discussing it briefly, I think at the end of the show last week, something like that intrigues people more in wanting to watch it. I mean, that just in a sense brings your price up. And it's almost like, well, wait a minute. If it was banned from Amazon Prime I think you can get pornos off Amazon Prime. Like, if you could get banned from something like Amazon Prime where you can get anything off of there, it makes you just intrigued, like, well, what the hell is this all about?
That's how Texas Chainsaw Massacre started the same way back in the 70s.
Right. I mean, even movies like The Interview that came out a few years ago surrounding the whole North Korean thing, like that was banned from Universal, and now they're on Netflix, and it's a top movie.
So anyway, tomorrow, humanhibachi.com, you guys can go on there, download the movie. Again, I would not, this is not safe for work. It's probably not safe if you just had a large dinner.
Don't make it like a family movie night.
It's not a family movie night, but it is damn interesting, and it's very good. It's very intense.
And not only that, Mario, I mean, if you have not checked out, and I'm not just saying this because I know Mario and I'm close with him. Seriously, like his movie and his talent that, in the success he's had in the movies he's made previously, with pretty much doing it from nothing, and him and his wife, out of their own pockets at that.
Right.
They're just so incredibly made. It's like they're not. It's like you're watching a movie that's had big budgets. Or something like that. Like, you can't tell it's some low-budget film. He's very talented, and he's well on his way, no doubt about it.
He does more with less.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of like my wife says.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Sometimes that's how it works out.
That's what she says about me.
Ah, that's what she said.
Yeah.
Old Michael Scott.
So anyway, so before I forget, and I always forget to do this in the show, so I'm going to do this right now up front. Social media, we are on it. So if you guys go on to Facebook, we are on Facebook under Facebook under Paradelphia. We are on Twitter at Paradelphia. I believe we're actually on Instagram too, right?
Yes, yeah, we are. And I think I want to say I think Jenna. I think Jenna has control of that, and she's done that. But and not only, I'll tell you what, I can't seem to catch up. Like, I've gotten to a point in my life where, of course, I know there's Facebook and Twitter, but now people are on all this stuff. Like, I can't keep track of what social media is popular.
I limit myself to 2.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like when you say you're on Facebook, it's like, is that it? You're not on Kabuka Bob or whatever? Or I don't know.
Is that what you're starting?
That's I'm going to start one called a KabukaBob.com.
KabukaBob.com.
Yep. You can only do it if your name's Bob. Bob Book. It's like a Bob Book.
All right, so let's get into the main topic here tonight. So we're talking about ultimately we're talking about, or we will be talking about, the paranormal effects and after effects of the tsunami that hit Japan back in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
But
doesn't even seem like that long ago. But
yeah. But this book, Ghosts of the Tsunami, written by Richard Lloyd Perry. Highly recommend it. I've gotten through about half, probably more than half.
Did you do? Oh, you got online the reading online thing?
Yeah.
And I thought of that after I bought the book. Like, why didn't I just buy it to read it online? But it, so.
So this book basically gives you kind of it's an inside look. Richard Perry lives in Japan and has for 18 years. And what he did after the tsunami is he went and talked to the people that had been affected by it the most. People that lived near the coast, lived near the epicenter of the earthquake and where the tsunami hit.
Right.
And basically what it was, the centerpiece of the book really is this situation where they had a school that was pretty close to the coast. I mean, it was probably within a mile of the coast. Called, I think it was the Okawa School, I believe. Okawa Elementary School.
Mm-hmm.
And in this school, they had 74 children passed away during the tsunami. Now, the thing about that is there were 12 other schools within the range that was considered the tsunami zone.
Right.
12 other elementary schools. The total number of children lost was 75. So 74 of them
came from the one.
Were in this one school.
And only one additional.
Right.
From.
So the question becomes, what is going on? And this is a picture, if you guys are watching online, this is a picture of the aftermath. This is what's left of the school. What did this school do wrong? Like, what did everyone else do right, and what did they do wrong?
Mm-hmm.
And this is explored through the eyes of the parents who lost children in this tragedy. It's explored through his eyes, Richard Perry, who's going and seeing all this for himself and talking to these people. And it's really, really interesting. So basically, the gist of this, for anybody that's unaware or forgets, it's been a few years, but on March 11th of 2011, there was an earthquake that was literally the largest earthquake in recorded history in Japan.
It was, in fact, because I watched second time, it was 8.9 magnitude. I want to say. And
they recorded it just off the coast. And once they recorded it off the coast, ironically, because Japan is so over-prepared for earthquakes, they really didn't have much damage from the earthquake itself.
Right.
And everybody he talked to in this story basically said that the buildings held up really well. That wasn't the problem. The problem came later on when slowly but surely they were getting and this one thing leads to another with this story. When the earthquake hit, it affected the communications lines. Not all of them, but some of them physically. Then you had the situation where people were calling everyone on their cell phone. And so that backed up the cell networks. So it became a situation where because of the physical damage and the cell networks being backed up, you didn't have the ability to communicate.
Right. And to think about that, I mean, just think about like for example, you look at over here with 9/11 when that happened. Same kind of concept where it was such a backup where it communicate, and that was just within New York City,
right.
Manhattan, all that. To where this is like northern Japan, like this is like a much larger area of it, so you can just imagine the comparison of chaos.
And this was no joke. This was literally the earthquake literally knocked Japan 4 feet closer to North America.
Yeah,
that's how strong this was.
In fact, again, from looking at numbers, I'm pretty sure. So again, where it was like around 8.9 was the magnitude of this earthquake. The biggest one prior to that was at like a 7.4, I think it said. So just to see, I mean, in magnitude, I'm not like an earthquake expert, but just from what I know, that's just a huge dramatic change in points of the whole earthquake numbers.
So one of the main characters, and I can't go over everything in the book here, but one of the main characters in the book, at least the beginning part of the book, is this lady named Sayomi Shinto, or Shito, Sayomi Shito.
Watch your language.
These names are brutal.
Right. It's anytime no disrespect to any of our Japanese listeners. We're trying.
So her daughter, who was named Chisato, she was, I believe she was 8 years old, 10 years old. She was in 5th grade, and she was at this school. You want to talk about heartbreak with this woman? Her older son had a graduation from middle school nearby her daughter's elementary school that day. So she went to that in the morning.
Right.
They had a party for the kids that were graduating literally across the street from the school. And right about the time they were dismissing school, she thought about going to get her daughter and bringing her home instead of waiting for her to take the bus home.
Right.
Well, she didn't because she said that her son wanted to go home and play with his friends. It was graduation day, so she said, "Whatever, I'll let her take the bus."
Sure.
Well,
obviously,
the tsunami hit, and she couldn't find. But here's the thing: when the tsunami hit, basically the way the lay of the land is, the school was on the other side of the mountain range, little small hills and whatnot. Not mountain range, but they were hills that separated the towns that were a couple miles inland from the coast. And the people that lived there, because the communications got knocked out, they didn't know what was going on.
Right.
So all they knew was what was trickling in as far as news, and they thought that this was just another, because they've had tsunamis there that were a couple feet deep, and they just figured it was one of those.
And not only that, there was a lot of reading where that earthquake was so strong, a lot of people knew, because it was so large, there were a lot of people that knew, like, well, there's got to be a tsunami to follow.
Yeah.
But again, they've had them before, not thinking of what this was to come,
So her daughter's in the school. She's getting reports that the kids are okay, but the kids are trapped in the school. It got to be nightfall. They got word that they were supposed to have, and wherever this came from, it's just, how rumors start.
Right.
There were supposed to be helicopters that were going to chopper the kids from the school back to dry land.
Right.
So all night, the men in the village cleared these areas that were supposed to be chopper landing spots for the choppers to land. And the next morning they waited and waited and waited and waited and waited, and nobody, like, they saw choppers going back and forth, like police and rescue, but nobody brought the kids back. That was the first red flag.
Right.
So eventually this went on for all day, and it got to a point where she was basically saying to, now the way her house is set up, and again, this starts to speak to the cultural differences. Her house had literally 5 generations living in the same house.
Okay.
From her 2-year-old daughter all the way up to her great-grandmother, who I believe was 102 or something at the time. Now, in Japanese society, it is a heavily patriarchal society. Heavily. And they are very duty-bound.
Right.
That is ingrained from day one when you are Japanese. It's a patriarchal society, and you are duty-bound to your family and to your job.
Right.
So that played a huge part in this, because when her husband couldn't get back from his job, he stayed at his job. The duty of the man of the house, so to speak, fell to her father-in-law.
All right.
Who was this old school, you will do as I say, I'm the man of the house guy.
Like military kind of type thing in a sense,
and
right?
she basically, he told her, she wanted to go to the school and look. She wanted to go search for her daughter.
As who wouldn't,
Right.
Like,
he said, stay here. Your job is to be in the house and cook for us and take care of us in the house.
Right.
You're the woman in the house. I told Taryn this, she lost her mind.
I mean, but
that's the way it was.
To their culture, again, like
That's
to
the way
us
it
here,
is.
you sit there and think about that, and you go, yeah, like women are like, but that is how it is.
So I'm cutting through the story. I'm leaving a lot out, but I'm trying to get through this. So he went eventually. He took a walk down to try and, I think it was later that day or the next morning, to try and find out what was going on, because it had now been like 2 days. He got about halfway down the road and started to get into really knee-deep, waist-deep water. He almost got sucked out to sea. He got caught up on some trees, but what he was able to see once he rounded that mountain, that hill, was that the area that was the town and the school was completely gone.
It was that was it, right?
And
you can
didn't
imagine
realize.
you can imagine how there's an undertow you feel when you're out in the ocean, if you know. So compared to being like that,
right. So the town was gone. So he came back and basically told this woman, this mother of this daughter of this girl, you need to resign yourself. She's gone. It's hopeless. This is what this guy was. He was no bullshit, straight up.
Right.
I saw it.
Yeah.
I saw it. That was his granddaughter he's talking about.
Right,
so
right.
But there was no emotion. You need to move on. She's gone.
Right.
So this was the mindset that she was in for days and days and days. And she basically did her, quote, job, and she was doing the cooking around the house, and she, all that stuff.
Meanwhile, daughter's lost.
Meanwhile, right, now the scope of what happened is becoming reality, but no one has found her daughter yet.
Right.
So even though the father-in-law said, there's no hope, she agreed with it because that's her place is to agree, In her mind, she had to, because she's a human being, to have something in the back of her mind that said maybe, just maybe, she's still okay.
Take culture out of it. Humans, that emotion. It doesn't matter what culture.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it was a week and a half or something, maybe 2 weeks later. Her husband, who had come back and forth at this point to working back, he had gone up to a high school that was nearby that they were taking bodies to. Well, he found the daughter in the high school in a pile of bodies, and he came back home and he said to his wife, you need to come with me, and we found Chisato.
Right.
And she was thinking, I've got to bring food and warm clothing, and he's like,
again,
no,
in the back of her head,
bring any of that.
Bring it in the back of her head, having that hope,
So she goes to this high school and she finds her daughter on this pile of bodies. And this was a part, this is going to sound disgusting, and I get that it does, but honestly, the first thing that happened with me when I saw this was I just, it got them. Like, I'm an asshole. I get it, But even this.
It doesn't matter. It's just like, even you even have like the closest with kids. I mean, you don't have kids your personal self, but obviously you have family with kids, and you're a teacher.
Yeah.
So you already have that, connection in itself too.
So she finds her daughter's body, and it's covered in mud. She's naked. She's clothes are ripped off, and it's naked and covered in mud. So she starts taking towels and wiping the mud off.
Sure.
Trying to clean her daughter. She takes her own shirt off when the towels are gone and starts to clean her.
All right.
Got to a point where she didn't have any clean anything anymore.
Right.
Starts to literally lick the dirt off of her daughter.
Wow, that's.
And I get that's she's licking her dead daughter, but
Yeah.
and it's disgusting. But at the same time, like, you got to think about that. Like, this woman had this hope in her mind,
right.
even though she was telling everybody that what she was, quote, supposed to be telling them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I understand, she's not going to come back.
She
had this hope,
right,
and something must have broken in this woman.
I mean,
to the point where she went back to literally, it was like an animalistic act,
right,
of like licking your young,
right,
to clean them.
Because I read, once you started getting into the story, I remember reading the same thing, because even the husband was looking at it as kind of like, I remember hearing, reading myself, that even looking at her down on all fours, looking like licking her almost like a dog. Even the husband was kind of looking at it as, but again, you have that. It's almost like you snap,
right?
And you lose that logic of thinking, and it's like right off the bat, it's like, what can I do to better this in a sense? And sometimes you do the weirdest shit in the worst times,
So this is just one of the stories in this book. It goes into a lot deeper, the questions of what happened at the school, who's liable. It turns out there was a lot worse, because the kids basically knew better than the adults,
right?
And because of the sense of, quote, duty and following the instruction manual to a T, those kids lost their lives. It's what it boiled down to.
Basically, regardless, it's like the kids are like, adults saying to kids, just shut up, you listen up, and it's unfortunate.
So now you've got a situation where you have, I believe it was, 13,000 or something people died in that initial day in that area. And this is kind of where it gets into the supernatural part.
Right.
Japanese people don't look at death the same as we do here.
Right.
When we lose someone here, we bury them, and we miss them, and maybe we take flowers to the grave, and we have a picture up in our house or whatnot. But
everyone's got their own like coping mechanism kind of thing.
To us, the person is gone. They've
Right.
gone somewhere else. To the Japanese, that's not what happens.
No, not at all.
They stay. To the Japanese, they literally build a shrine in their home called a hati. And basically what they do is they take the name of the deceased and put them on an onyx stone, and they make this nice little, it's almost like a little garden in their home with flowers and little waterfalls or whatever. And it's basically a shrine to, the ahati is what they're showing here.
Bring it up, yeah. Which you can see, if you go to some flea markets and stuff or anything, you see those around that people will get just to have as decoration, but this is the main purpose of them.
Right. So the main gist of this is that these people believe that the dead are there constantly. They are influencing the lives of the living all the time.
Right.
And so to that end, this belief is just ingrained in the Japanese people. So when they started to have these incidents of supernatural events where people were seeing ghosts and they were seeing relatives, it was not as far-fetched to them as it might seem to us.
Right.
Because they basically had the idea that those people, those deceased relatives, are there anyway.
Right. And again, getting into that whole concept where, again, like you said, they're around. I mean, in a situation like this, it even goes beyond at this point. Because, again, like you said, you have family, you get a loved one that passes away. To them, they're still there. I mean, in a sense, in their culture, their belief on spirituality, again, they're just because they're physically not there, they're there. So it's like everybody, in a sense, is a ghost or a spirit to them. And but with it almost goes from you having a belief like that with a loved one to now you're having a whole widespread area, which goes into, again, a lot of the stories. Not only do they that I've come across from the Unsolved Mysteries, but like the countless stories that you read about online, which again is what when we get into it, some of the ones that I found that are very fascinating.
So one of the most interesting, and this was part of the Unsolved Mystery show episode, is the story of this gentleman. He calls himself Ono. It's an assumed name because he felt shame in telling his story. Basically, Ono lived a few miles inland. Did not really know the destruction that took place. He again, the communications were down. He kind of just thought it was going to be something where it was a little bit messed up. And one day he got I believe it was his wife and maybe his daughter or his mother-in-law or somebody, but a group of them got into a car and drove down to the coast, figuring they just wanted to see what had happened.
Curiosity struck them. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And so when they drove down there, they were basically very flippant about it. They took a packed lunch. It was an outing for them.
Sure.
And it was really just kind of a curiosity, a morbid curiosity kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Death is always, everyone's always curious of death. Accidents, you always get that stop and you look and see what you can find, just anywhere.
So they went down there, spent the day, kind of walked around. He saw the destruction that was down there, but basically was again taking it not real seriously.
Right.
It was just kind of more in awe. He was more in awe and kind of all shucks kind of stuff than taking it the way he should have, and you know, the somber.
Just that
sense of
shock of, oh my God, what happened kind of thing, right?
So he comes home and he made a couple of calls to some friends that night that he even himself said was kind of odd. He called them just saying, "Hey, what's up? How you doing?" And I guess he kind of wrote it off like, I'm just kind of feeling nostalgic because I saw these people in this horrible situation.
Right.
The next morning, his wife threatened to divorce him. And the mother-in-law was pissed at him, and he had no idea what the hell was going on.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So the two of them tell him this story about something he didn't remember at all from the night before.
Mm-hmm.
He basically, apparently, in the middle of the night, decided to start to curse them out.
Yeah.
In the middle of the night in their house, telling them, quote unquote, "You must die. Everyone must die. Everything must be dead and lost."
Mm-hmm.
Then ran outside and started rolling around in the mud.
Yeah,
and barking and howling like an animal.
Right, he got down on like all fours, like again, like he just snapped like something he wasn't used to. Right.
So his wife eventually got him back in the house and settled him down, and told him about this the next day, and he had no idea he had done this.
Mm-hmm.
So he got freaked out,
right,
and went to a holy man.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a monk, I believe.
Yeah, monk Buddhism. That's usually monks and Buddhists. I mean, they're considered reverends, like they still use that term reverend. But yeah, that's like the main. Yeah. At least for that area, that's what their main thing is: monk and Buddhism and everything.
So the monk's name was Kaneda.
Mm-hmm.
And this is again part of the show, the episode on Unsolved Mysteries.
Mm-hmm.
Kaneda is he took him into the temple and basically wanted to do an exorcism on him.
Right.
Their version of an exorcism. Mm-hmm. The priest, he basically beat a drum, chanted over him, splashed him with holy water, and Ono eventually came to his senses.
Right. Right.
And felt kind of this relief.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to read this directly out of the book because Ono still didn't understand what he did wrong. He didn't know why this had happened to him, and the priest understood this.
Obviously, something subconsciously got, or spirit, something. Right, I know what you mean.
He told him the story of what happened, and Ono didn't understand what he had done wrong.
Right.
Or what he had done to bring this on himself.
Thinking he just went to bed that night, and that was it, yeah.
And it says, Kaneda spoke sternly to him. Both understood what had happened. Ono told me that he walked along the beach in that devastated area, eating an ice cream. He even put up a sign against the windshield of his car saying "disaster relief," so nobody would stop him. So basically, he was just taking advantage and just very flippant and self-serving.
Kind of right.
He went there flippantly without giving it any thought at all. And I told him, "You fool! If you go to a place like that where many people have died, you must go with a feeling of respect.
Sure,
that's common sense. You've suffered a kind of punishment for what you did." Something got a hold of you, perhaps the dead who can't accept they are yet dead. They've been trying to express their regret and resentment through you.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what he's saying is he was possessed by the spirits of these people who were still caught in this Neverland,
right?
Purgatory. And they targeted him
Sure.
because of the way he was acting.
They could sense, again, when you look at spirits and everything, no matter what of it, they sense the energy. He was giving off this energy that, again, it pissed them off. So they're like, okay, well, let's show you just how not serious or like your asshole-ish ways really are. Yeah.
So this became very widespread. The idea that there were these ghosts in the area.
Uh-huh.
There were hundreds of these reports, and this priest Kaneda, I can't call him a priest. I don't know what the terminology is.
I mean, it's the
Buddhist
idea.
monk.
Because he was referring to himself as a reverend.
Yeah,
in
so I think
the
he's
show.
considered a
So
priest.
reverend priest, yeah.
So he basically started this. He got this idea to start this thing. He called the Cafe de Munku, which basically was, he had the idea that these people that had lived through this, because Japanese culture again is very repressed. Your feelings have to be repressed all the time.
Right.
And he knew that these people were hurting, and he knew these people wanted to have an outlet. So he wanted to give them an outlet. So he basically took this. It was almost like a traveling road show, where he basically went to all these villages and kind of set up shop and let people vent to him. He started talking to them, but eventually he said he didn't really have to say much because the people saw the priest, saw the opportunity to vent their anxiety and their fear and their frustration and their anger and whatever else, and they did. So this was a way that he basically got them to kind of come out of their shell and
It's like a mobile therapy kind of thing, right?
So basically, he said the survivors spoke of the terror of the wave, the pain of bereavement, and their fear for the future. They also talked about encounters with the supernatural. They described sightings of ghostly strangers, friends and neighbors, and dead loved ones. They reported hauntings at home, at work, in offices, and public places, on the beach, and in ruined towns. All right. Some of the examples of this: a young man complained of pressure on his chest at night, as if some creature were straddling him as he slept. A girl spoke of a fearful figure who squatted in her house. A middle-aged man didn't want to go out in the rain anymore.
Yes, I said that.
The reason is because he kept seeing dead people in puddles. The faces of dead people in puddles.
Right.
A civil servant visited a devastated stretch of coast and saw a solitary woman in a scarlet dress, far from the nearest road or house, with no means of transportation in sight. When he looked at her again, she was gone. And a fire station received calls to places where all the houses had been destroyed. The crews went out to the ruins, and when they got there, they prayed for the spirits, and soon the calls stopped. So these were examples, some examples of what was going on in the town, or the towns in the devastated area.
Right.
Now, I know you did some research on this, Doug.
I did. I mean, it basically, in addition to, in addition to some of the things that were on the show, just some accounts that people have had with it. And so yeah, I mean, actually, to just kind of follow up with what you were just talking about, one of the biggest things in doing the readings, everything to prepare for this, is how, much like we talked about, the whole thought and the way that their views on spirit and how they're around all the time. One of the biggest things that people, and even to this day, I mean, you could read things that people are still encountering, today, to a year ago and everything, is you'll have people walking down the street or driving down the street, and they're, whatever the case is, still being stopped by a person or even a group of people in some cases. And it's funny because a lot of times these people that are explaining these accounts, it's like they know right off the bat, just by looking at them, that these people that are stopping them, and it's like asking for help, they know that they're past, they've moved on. And one in particular is there's a woman named Kancho Aizawa. Again, something along that lines. But she is, let's see, she's actually a resident of one of the towns, in Ishomaki, which was part of the devastation. And as part of a living, she's also like a therapist. She's like a counselor. And she, in addition to having people, come to her to kind of talk about the devastation, whether they've had some kind of loss in family, whatnot, she talks about an encounter she had one night, and it wasn't long after the tsunami took place. And she was flagged down. She was driving down the street, and she said she was flagged down by a couple of individuals that were together. And when she said that she knew when she pulled up that there was just something different about them, that she just expected that they were no longer living. So when she asked, what can I help you with? One of the gentleman said to her, I am lost and I just want to get home. And one of the things that they talk about again is, a lot of these spirits who have passed away because of the tsunami is, all of a sudden this tsunami, earthquake, whatever, it wiped towns out. It just leveled it, looking like nothing but like farmland. So to them now, they're trying to find their way home, and it's not there. They're not aware fully what happened. So it's like, how do I get home? So anyway, so they asked her, like, I'm trying to find my way home. So she asked him, well, where do you live? And basically the guy was trying to explain, like, I thought I lived around here, but I don't, so nothing looks familiar.
Right.
So she explains that she actually said to them that, listen, there was a tsunami, there was an earthquake, and I believe you've passed away, you're deceased. And she goes on to say that at first it was tough for them to believe, like, get out of here, no way, until she started explaining, like, this is the town you're in, but it wiped everything away. You unfortunately passed away.
Right.
So after it was kind of like moving on, they were upset and everything, and she just was like, she asked them, do you need any more help? And they said, we're just going to keep finding home. And she pulled away, and not long she said, looking behind, that she no longer saw them.
Right.
So, and those you can, like, if you look online and research, those are a lot of things. People just walking, they'll be stopped to this day by people just saying, I'm lost or something. And it's like as if, during devastation. So that's like a main account, and one in particular from a woman who, here you go again, she's a counselor, and she already is dealing with people trying to cope with it, but now she, because of the spirituality and what she's used to, it's like she's helping the dead also.
And in Japanese culture, the way they died plays into this, because in their culture, if a person dies in a sudden, violent manner, and the proper rites have not been performed, like they, one of the things that was mentioned in the documentary is that almost always Japanese will cremate their dead.
Yeah, I did see that, which I didn't realize that. But yeah,
but because the crematoriums were full and they couldn't take any more people, they and obviously the bodies were rotting. They had to literally start to bury the dead with the intention of then digging them up later.
Yeah, I saw that
cremating
too.
them later.
Yeah, they actually, what's the word? Took them out by what's assumed or something like that. Anyway. But yeah, they dug them up and eventually did cremate them. But like you said, it was,
and so so this all leads to the creation in the Japanese mindset of these ghosts called yurei.
Yes, yes.
And basically, if you want to know what a yurei is, watch The Grudge. Because The Grudge is a yurei. The I forget the girl's name in that, but Kyoto or Komoto or something like that.
Sounds about right. Yeah, I forget. It's been such a long time since I've seen it.
Basically, what it is someone who has died and has been disrespected in death.
Right.
Either forgotten, or the remains have been disturbed, or the remains have not been properly disposed of. Whatever it may be.
Kyoko Siki.
Kyoko. Okay.
Kyoko character. Yeah. Yep.
So that is what apparently is going on, because these people died so suddenly. Their remains either were lost and have not been found, or they were found, but they were found in a completely, they were torn up and dismembered and all that stuff.
Right. I mean, and in a sense, it's kind of the same concept, no matter what. I mean, especially, I know in the past with doing the research that I've done, it's the same thing. I mean, especially when you get into a case where you're doing a potentially haunted location believed to be someone that may have died in like a civil war or some kind of war. It's they lost their life in such a traumatic way that they are quite lost, or that it does. You can either have an angry spirit or whatever the case is, or not knowing. So,
and it's interesting because the mindset the Japanese have is regarding the dead is not so very different from the Mexican way to look at it, because they're Dios de Muertos.
Yep,
the Day of the Dead. If you've ever seen the Disney film Coco, that ironically it's a Disney film, but it gives a really good example of what the mindset is with the Mexican and the Spanish, I guess, thought process, Latin American thought process, with regard to the dead.
Right.
And the idea is that, as long as you are remembered, you are allowed to live on in the netherworld.
Right.
In heaven, basically.
The afterlife.
The afterlife.
Yeah, right.
And so to that end, they also create shrines to their dead, with the idea being that they don't want to forget them.
Right.
And that's the same thought process the Japanese have. And it's one of those things where, in the movie, the one of the plots of the movie is that I think the kid has a uncle or something that passed away, or grandfather.
It was, I think, grandfather. I'm pretty sure. Right.
And the only one that remembered him was the grandmother, who was slowly losing her. She was going senile, and so she was forgetting him.
Right.
And so the idea was this kid went to the afterlife, learned all about his grandfather so he could come back and remind people about him so he didn't disappear. Because that was the greatest fear. The greatest fear was not death. The greatest fear was being forgotten. And as long as someone remembered you, you were okay on the other side. Once you were forgotten, once you were one of these people that just had everyone you knew died and everyone that knew you died, you became literally forgotten in history as if you didn't do anything that was significant enough to be remembered.
Right.
And you just basically disappeared from the afterworld.
Right.
Which was a bad thing.
And one of the things too that I just thought of is look at, for example, too, with Japanese. I mean, one of the things that's known in Japan, of course, is the Aokiari, the haunted forest. The forest where it's suicide forest
yeah.
is what they just at the base of Mount Fiji, where people go to commit suicide.
Right.
And I mean the stories just out of that. So again, where people are already going into there with the thoughts, sometimes people back out, or sometimes they've said to get in there and get lost. But either way, dying in there, you're going in there already as a lot of times people don't know where you are.
Yeah.
And you're not found for such time, or you're never found. So again, it's already putting like a strain on the land and the spirituality of things. So,
and that's why it's considered so haunted, because all the people that go in there and commit suicide, their bodies obviously are not being cared for, so they're automatically going to become one of these dry.
And then you kind of get lost there. So you sit there, right? So you sit there and you think it's like all of a sudden your spirit is lost in there.
Right. And
maybe whatever their thought, like, oh, okay, well, if I die, I won't have this struggle anymore, but I get out. But who's to say they can't? They're not trapped in there. So, it's just where you have something like that's most famous around the world around it, and then you have a devastation like this. Of course, I don't know the geography of it on how far it is, but still, I mean, again, and it's almost like I feel, too, that they have such a strong belief system, not just in Japan, but Mexico, everything, is because of the fear. Too. Also, like, if they fear that, again, if they do forget, they want to remember, but, like, no one knows what kind of power that spirits have in the afterlife. So, again, it could be a scary thing, but also maybe a coping way, something that kind of eases their mind of a loved one that, they're still here, just not physically.
So that's basically the story. Again, the book is so much more than what I described, what we described here tonight. It goes into a lot of different aspects. There's many different. That's just one point of view, or one character's. Well, I say character, but they're real people.
Right.
One person's experience, but there's the experiences of the people that were, responsible for the kids in the school. They look at that aspect of it. They look at the aspect of the people who were in the surrounding area. These older people. These people who there's a guy who lived. I think he was 105 years old. He was like active 105. Like he was in like the 100-year-old Olympics.
I was going to say, he wasn't just in the 100 sitting at home waiting to die pretty much.
Like he had been through world wars. He had been through,
That's insane. Wow.
Everything you can imagine in 105 years, he was doing like shot put and javelin at 105 years old. He was literally they have a Centurion Olympics.
Wow.
And he was in this. And he was winning medals.
That is insane. I'll be 50 like on the brink of death,
He passed away in this thing, of all things, this crazy freak of nature that happened.
Right.
So it's all these stories that are in this book. I can't recommend this book enough. It's really, really good.
Oh yeah, I can't. I sit there and I bought it and I'm waiting for it. And I'm just not used to reading on like a tablet or anything. I didn't even think about it because I saw it and I'm like, I gotta have it, and bought it and I'm waiting on it. And
like I said,
then I thought to myself, I can just read it.
Most of the stories, I mean, they touch on the supernatural, but it's only basically a part of one of the chapters, one of the sections. Most of the book surrounds the firsthand accounts of what happened and the ins and outs, and he really Richard Perry really gets into you're like a fly on the wall. You're basically a fly on the wall during all this going on, and it's a lot of it is eye-opening, a lot of it is heartbreaking.
Right,
You can imagine, like, you literally could put yourself in the place of these people.
Right.
Like, this is just it's gut-wrenching.
It is. I mean, just the thought. I mean, looking at the whole concept in itself. I mean, when I saw on that there was an Unsolved Mysteries about this, you see these devastating events that happen, like the tsunami, or I mean, you even Hurricane Katrina with New Orleans, these drastic things that happen, and again, you don't really fully think about these experiences people are having of this of spiritual, like the ghost story. I mean, I call it ghost stories. I don't mean it to sound as if it's a playful type thing, but just these experiences people are having.
Right.
I mean, even to this day, and again, such a traumatic event that with an earthquake and tsunami, you're not expecting. It's not like a weather event where a hurricane's on its way and could potentially. Right. I mean, this is something just boom, and there's a loss of life. It's later on down the road. Of course, you remember the event, but the people that are in a sense still around, living or dead, that went through it. It's something that is incredible. And again, when I saw it and started reading on it, it's just like, wow, never would have imagined.
All right, so we're gonna. I'll link to the book if anybody wants to pick it up. I recommend it highly. It's called "Ghosts of the Tsunami" by Richard Lloyd Perry. And that's gonna just about wrap us up for the evening. I want to mention tomorrow. Mario Cerrito's Human Hibachi is gonna be live and ready for streaming and download.
Oh, I can't wait. Yeah, I'm definitely. Do you know what? Did he say what time or anything? Or
he said Friday. You can try after midnight. I mean, I don't know.
I was just curious. That's all.
Yeah,
because I'm, like I said, ready to check it out.
Try after midnight. It's at some point tomorrow. It'll be live. And you can download. And
again, not a Friday night family movie night kind of situation.
It's not a family movie night, but it's a damn good time if you're into some crazy shit. He brings the goods.
So say, it kind of makes you think about the mind of Mario Cerrito. On top of the stuff he's done before, then looking at this, it's like, do I want to be alone with Mario anymore? And
he's a good guy.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But his mind is.
It's crazy because when you know Mario personally, and you see the things that he comes up with, it just doesn't mix. He's the nicest guy in the world, would do anything for you. And then you see what his mind comes up with. It's like, it is. But it's definitely good stuff. I mean, definitely looking forward to it. So.
All right. So, again, tomorrow, humanhibachi.com. You guys can download that.
And again, Unsolved Mysteries, like we said, it's on Netflix. They don't have seasons. It's volume 2. I'm not sure what number, but you'll see it. It'll say Tsunami Ghosts or something.
I think it's episode 4.
Yeah. So check that out, definitely.
All right. So I want to thank Doug for stopping in tonight. For our two Toxic Mike over here, who's been quiet the whole night. You haven't spoken 3 words tonight, man.
I was going to say, does this mean we get to go back to
you guys were so into what you were talking about, and you guys were so educated on everything. I didn't want to interrupt. You guys were having a bromance over tsunamis.
It's cool. Like when I would talk to Rick about when he said about coming, will you be in studio or I think my response was I would love to be in studio there,
Oh yeah, so I saw that too, but like, and I never want to interrupt when you got two guys that are very knowledgeable on what they're talking about, and I'm in the chat room making duty jokes because you said duty over and over again.
Did I say?
No. It was actually Rick was saying duty over and over again.
Usually I'm the one that's saying fucked up words,
Yeah. So, but you guys were very knowledgeable. You understood it, and I never want to intervene. When all I know is there was a lot of water.
Oh, that. Right. Well, again, it's crazy because when I mentioned and brought it up, I'm just like, I saw Unsolved Mystery, and when I saw Tsunami Ghosts and started watching, I don't even think I was through the episode before I put out there like, yo, this would be a badass
No,
topic.
It was really cool,
And,
and
you know.
it made me. I've been playing video clips, and it's reminding me of what happened because
Right.
you forget over time something like that.
Yeah.
And just your guys' stories and different takes on the aftermath of what happened is very eye opening,
yeah.
very interesting. So I really didn't want to interrupt what you guys. I was very intrigued. As I was making duty jokes in the chat room.
Nice, yeah.
And also being very happy that we don't have to watch Rick get upset because his light went out during the show.
Oh, yeah, well.
So-
The light stayed on. I have a nice tan now.
I was going to say, it's luckily, actually, it's nice because when you think of those bright lights for video, you're like, you're blinded out, you know, but it really,
I'm just gonna,
you know,
I'm gonna
it's
wear
nice,
shades
so.
next week.
Yeah,
Yes.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
so
it's like, hi, everybody. No,
So
it's-
you guys did a great show, and I was
Yeah.
intrigued, and I didn't want to interrupt. So
Does
good
this-
good show to you guys.
Does this mean we get to do our, we know how we normally after the show would do our Mike, Rick, and Doug cuddles? Does that mean we spoon tonight, or? Oh, I wouldn't. We're still live. No, I'm just.
See, this is why we don't invite him.
him.
This is why we don't invite him.
You know, I'll still show up. No.
All right, guys. So it's been fun.
Yes.
Thank you for tuning in, whether you're on Facebook or Twitter or anywhere else.
Whatever you
We will
kids
release
are
this
using
in a
nowadays.
podcast, and for you guys listening in a podcast, thank you for listening. For Doug, for Toxic Mike, I'm Rick. We are Paradelphia, and we are out of here.
Yeah.